Right, last time mowing, we developed a rather loud, horrible vibrating noise. Thought we'd done a bearing. I thought it would have been on one of the rollers. Got out, checked them, they were fine. Ran it at idle, ran fine, rev it up, and it sounded like it was about to blow apart. Checked all the cutter bar, everything was fine, nothing was hitting. Couldn't put my finger on it. So eventually I ran it. Shut up, air compressor. I ran it with the handbrake on, got out and had a look, revved it up, and sounded like it was coming from inside the pool. So I whipped the drive belt off, ran it again, and the noise was definitely there, so it certainly was nothing to do with the deck or the rollers. So I popped the inspection plugs, I guess that's what you call them, ran it again, horrible noise. So handbrake on again so I could have a look. This rear one had actually snapped the housing for the bearing carrier, and it was just flopping around. That's where all the noise was. So I thought, right, need new housing, no worries. Talking to the dealer, and the service manager thought it had to come out backwards, which would mean taking it in there to take the pull off and get it out backwards. Well, that isn't the way it comes out. Besides the fact that it's practically impossible for it to come out that way. I decided it was coming out the front. So I pulled the gearbox out, top gearbox, and yes, it does come out that way, and there is a good reason for it, because there is a bearing at the other end, fixed housing up in there, so those housings for the length of the shaft cannot physically fit through there, so no, it does not go that way. So we got the shaft out, 6 metres long, hex shaft, 1.5 inches, I think it is. I think it's 40 mil, 38 mil. Thought, cool, while I've got it out, I'll replace the bearings. Bearings seem fine. Unfortunately, not so much the shaft. That's where the broken housing one was. The next one down is only marginally of an improvement, and they gradually work their way down in appearance as well. That one's not too bad, and that one was quite good, but the further back you go, the more absolutely fucked it was. So I had contemplated turning the shaft around, because the bearings do not all sit equally spaced. So theoretically, if you turn the shaft around, the bearings were going to be sitting in a different spot. But given how much that's worn the shaft, the thought in my head anyway was, and how much of a, it's not that much, it's not exactly a bad job. It only took me about 2 hours to whip the thing out, but mid-season, if you're desperate, it's certainly not something that you want to do. So, given that a brand new 6 metre shaft was $1,700 rather than several thousand or more that I thought it probably would have been, being John Deere, I decided that I would replace the shaft, which turns out was probably a good idea, because that's for the rear to stop the shaft going through any further when you're pushing it up. And then your bearing does up on the other side of it, and the coupler does up onto that one. Well, that is only on one end. The other end, there is only one notch for the coupler, so I would have had to have ground out part of that anyway on the other end to be able to spin it round, which is not a huge deal, but like I said, given the wear in that shaft and the fact that you don't want to have to do it again if you can avoid it. I mean, this is a 2010 model, so we're 14 years in now. I did replace all the bearings though. There's nothing wrong with the bearings. There is no wear in the centres of the bearings. Whatever wear you think you can see, that is exactly the same in a brand new one as what it is in that one, because there's a little bit of a concave to it sort of thing that you can't really pick up there. But anyway, there is no wear in any of those bearings. They were all fine. Even the one that was in the broken housing, the bearing itself was actually fine. But for the sake of fucking doing the job, there is not a snowflake's chance in hell that I was putting the old ones back in. So, I've just knocked that up. And tomorrow, with the aid of 2 apprentices, it will be time to slide the bastard back in there and try and put it all back together.